Happy Veterans Day. This is an important and a powerful day. And you think about the meaning of Veterans Day. Veterans Day is a day that this is a holiday that is earned. Right? This is not a holiday that is just given. This is a holiday that is a celebration of those who chose to raise their hand. It's a celebration of those who chose to put on a uniform. It's a celebration of those who chose to leave their families. It's a celebration of those who chose to put and risk everything for us, for the hope of us, for the aspirations of this country, who are willing to lie because they believe in our greater good. And I could not think of a more appropriate day. A day to lift up one of the greatest Marylanders we have ever seen.
Absolutely.
One of the greatest patriots this country's ever seen. Than to have a day where we are going to honor and lift up and commission Harriet Tubman to be a general. I could not think of a more appropriate day to do that than today of Veterans. General Burkett, I just want to say thank you. We have the most remarkable tag that any state could ever ask for.
Yes, you do.
And I'm excited. I'm grateful for all of your leadership. The only thing I'll say is that as someone who I finished as a captain in the Army, and I'm deeply grateful for the people I served with, and I'm honored by the service that I did. And there was no way that we were going to make Harriet Tubman a captain. But I am deeply, deeply grateful for everything that you did and everything that you are. I also am thankful because, as a reminder that when people say, well, you got a bill done or you signed a bill, I want to, I sometimes have to remind people of the civics of it. That the governor proudly signs bills into law. But it's other folks who are actually putting the laws together. I very proudly signed the bill into law, but let's be clear, that does not happen if it is not for folks like Elliot Patterson. It does not happen unless you have leaders of the chamber who ensure that this happens, and that means leaders like my friend Speaker Adrian Jones. It does not happen without all of the lawmakers that we have here today, who don't just make sure that we are putting the words down, but who are making sure that they are being publicly and audibly heard when they vote yes. And that matters, because there takes a certain and a very real measure of courage to understand and lift up courage. None of this happens by accident. None of this happens just because. It happens because we have remarkable public servants who are willing to do the work. And so today here, this really is a beautiful celebration. It's a celebration because I know I look around this room and I see Democrats and I see Republicans. I look around this room and I see Marylanders and future Marylanders. Because you know that's how the world is split up. And those who want to be Marylanders. I see remarkable members of the Tubman family. And I see everyone else from Washington, D.C. And I see everyone else who is a descendant of Harriet Tubman's love. And a descendant of her spirit. And so I'd like for us to take a moment just to remember how remarkable this assemblage is. Right? This is Maryland here. it becomes really important right now, because at a time when our society seems to be so steeped in division, at a time when our society seems to be so focused on the things that separate us, at a time when our society seems to be still trying to recover from this measure of vitriol and misunderstanding, this assemblage reminds us of what's right and what's just and what makes us whole. So the irony of doing it today is that today it's Miss Tubman that brought us together. And so she is doing in death what she did in life. People, remember when we talked about this idea and how we said that leave no one behind was not just a statement, it is actually the governing philosophy of the War Building Administration. But let's be clear about who the original leave no one behind was. Because there is nobody who defined leave no one behind in the way that General Tubman. No one would have judged her at all had she chosen not to keep doing those journeys. No one would have judged her. No one would have judged her if she took her personal newfound freedom and spent the rest of her days just being a private citizen and spending a private life in the North. No one would have judged her had she have said, you know what, that journey was difficult and there ain't no way I'm doing it. Despite the fact that there were still others in bondage. No one would have judged her if she helped to coordinate the entire abolitionist cause and the entire abolitionist movement from Philadelphia. And if she just would have said, let me coordinate from up here while others stayed in the South. No one would have judged her. But she knew that in order to do the work, that meant that she had to go into the lion's den. She knew that leadership means you have to be willing to do what you are asking others to do.
Amen.
And leadership is not telling others what to do, but you're not willing to do it yourself. No one would have judged her if she decided just to do the work from the shadows and squarely outside of the system. And she didn't support the right for others to find their own freedom. But she raised her hand. She raised her hand to join the Union Army as a soldier and a spy because she believed that you cannot just rail about a system being flawed. You actually have to be the one to go in and work to change it. Harriet Tubman lived the virtues that the U.S. military taught each and every one of us who took that oath. She lived them. They're embodied in who she was and what she represents. That you lead with honor and integrity and duty and courage. And she didn't do it because she thought that the country was perfect. She did it because she thought that she was responsible for helping to make its perfection. And that's the important thing that I continue to take from her, is that many people will look at something's imperfection and just say it can't be fixed. But then there are those special people, like General Tubman, who said, if it is to be fixed, and it needs to be fixed, then let me be the one to go help and fix it. Let me be the one who's going to be courageous and thoughtful. And let me do it with unity as the North Star. And it's important because when you think about even just the history of this state, her birth state Because let's be clear, she understood the unevenness of Maryland's history. And it's an unevenness that we all hold on to, because it is important to remind people sometimes that Maryland is the northernmost southern state in this country. It's important sometimes to remind people that the Mason-Dixon line runs through the state of Maryland for a reason. It's important to remind people sometimes that the bloodiest battles in the Civil War took place right here in the state of Maryland. It's important to remind people that sometimes that during the Civil War, Maryland refused to secede and allowed for slavery inside of our borders. It's important to remind people sometimes that even when you look at the Maryland flag that I proudly wear on my lapel, the Maryland flag is a combination of a Union flag and a Confederate flag. That's the history. Harriet Tubman knew that. She understood the complexity. She understood and she felt the freedom that she felt when she went north. And she knew if there are still people in bondage, then that means I have work to do. Despite the unevenness of our past, Maryland bears the standard for what national unity could and should look like in the United States of America.
Yes, sir.
We work together here. We understand each other here. We are willing to put petty differences to the side because we know there's a greater good that we're hoping to attain. That here in Maryland, we see our neighbors not as enemies, but as friends. This is what Maryland does. Our sense of common cause was not preordained. It was earned by many courageous acts that have taken place over generations. And as long as that moral arc is moving, we've always been blessed to have people who are willing to make sure that it bends in the right direction. And that includes people like General Tubman. Because General Tubman continues to mark our path towards greater connectivity and community and compassion and love. She continues to be our North Star towards justice. She continues to do as was said in Psalm 61 to help us to find a rock that is higher than I. And today, we honor that legacy with an honor that puts on paper what we've always known in our hearts. That our leader in acts deserved a star on her shoulder the whole time. Today we celebrate the American Moses. Today we celebrate our modern prophet. Today we celebrate a soldier and a person who earned the title of veteran.
Yes.
Today, we celebrate one of the greatest authors of the American story, Maryland's own General Harriet Tubman.